and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. We'll start with a check of the top headlines this hour. US President Donald Trump has dismissed remarks from Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederiksen after he reiterated Greenland's commitment to Denmark. Asked about the comments from Prime Minister Nielsen, Trump said, "I don't know who he is, but that will be a big problem for him." Bill and Hillary Clinton say they will not be testifying in the House Oversight Committee's Jeffrey Epstein investigation. Chairman of the House Oversight Committee threatens to hold the Clintons in contempt of Congress for refusing to testify. Planet logs its third hottest year on 2025, extending a run of unprecedented heat, according to US researchers and European Union climate monitors. US President Donald Trump has now stated that a US takeover will be great for Venezuela as American oil companies formulate their re-entry strategy into the Venezuelan oil market. Independent human rights groups have stated that the death toll from the crackdown on protests in Iran has crossed 2,500. US President Donald Trump tells Iranians to keep protesting, says help is on the way as US mounts strikes. Iran says US seeking pretext for military intervention. Officials say over 2,500 killed in unrest. Trump says day of reckoning and retribution coming to Minnesota, where 37-year-old Rennie Nicole Good was killed by an ICE agent as protests continue in Minneapolis. Apple signs multi-year deal with Google to fix Siri with Gemini, which the company promised at WWDC 2024, but has since been delayed. Apple had promised 3 big upgrades to Siri to take it on par with rivals like Gemini and ChatGPT. All right, we now start with news from the United States, where President Donald Trump has said that the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell will be gone soon. Trump also stated that Powell was either incompetent or crooked. Trump has also said that JP Morgan Chase chief executive Jamie Dimon was wrong to criticize his attacks on the Federal Reserve, dismissing concerns about undermining the central bank's independence. Trump has clashed repeatedly with Powell over the president's demand the Fed cuts rates. The administration's decision to open a criminal investigation into Powell has drawn condemnation from former Fed chiefs and a chorus of criticism from key members of Trump's Republican Party. Let's in fact listen into what Trump said.
We're talking about the head of the Fed, and I want somebody that when the market is doing great, interest rates can go down because our country becomes stronger. See, you view it differently. Our country becomes stronger, and therefore interest rates should go down, not up. They kill every rally. And just last week, the average 30-year mortgage dropped below 6% for the first time in many years. It's coming down very rapidly, and that's not with the help of the Fed. If I had the help of the Fed, it would be easier. But that jerk will be gone soon.
Yeah, I think it's fine what I'm doing. We have a bad Fed person. He was extended by Biden. And, yeah, I think he's wrong. I think it's wrong. He's done a bad job. We should have lower rates. Jamie Dimon probably wants higher rates. Maybe he makes more money.
Joining me in this discussion is Sharath Kohli, who's a senior economist from New Delhi. Thanks very much, Mr. Kohli, for joining me in this discussion. What do you think it's really about? The overhaul of the Washington headquarters of the Fed building, or is it really about the pressure to lower interest rates that Trump wants?
Hello, Kriti. Hello to the viewers of NewsX World. I think this is about undermining the independence and importance of Fed. In any standard federal structure, the federal bank has an independent role. A government in power should not be interfering in the monetary policy decisions of the country. But what we are witnessing here is that there is a categorical interference. It is all about why didn't Jerome Powell lower the rates? And the reason why he didn't lower the rates at that time was because the inflation was very high. So when the inflation is high, you can't lower the rates at that time. So the rates have gone down, but they have gone down as per the requirements of the economy. But President Trump wanted them to go down sooner because he wanted the economy to be painted in a better picture. I think so. He's not happy with Jerome Powell, and he's called him stupid earlier also, I remember on an earlier occasion. And now he wants him to go. Well, I think Jerome Powell's decision, in my view, I'm an economist as well. I think his decisions were quite in line with the way the economy was functioning at that point of time, even as of today. But he wants him to get investigated and see as to what is wrong with him. He says he's probably spent something on renovation of the Fed as well. Well, that's up to them to investigate. But there was nothing wrong, I feel, with Jerome Powell's decision. They were done as per the requirements of the economy, Kriti.
And what about the allegations of the $2 billion overhaul of the Fed headquarters?
Well, that is a subject matter of investigation, but I feel President Trump has got some vendetta to settle with Jerome Powell. And Jerome Powell is a very senior, Fed governor. And I really don't think, man with such an experience at that age would have done it. But it's all a matter of investigation. But it's more coming out of vendetta than this thing. It is, although the investigation would prove that. But then I think because he didn't act the way President Trump wanted him to be. But it is not a standard practice, with him, more importantly, for a president to interfere, or head of the state to interfere with the functioning of a monetary policy institution, because it leads to distorted decisions, and monetary policy institutions are separate from the federal structure. That needs to be understood here, Kriti.
All right, sure. How do you weigh on the accusations that Powell has made on Trump? He's saying that it's not really about anything else, but really the interest rates that were not lowered as per Trump's requirements.
No, because see, there is certain degree of personal, vendetta there. They have scores to settle against each other, because President Trump, ever since he came to power, was putting pressure on reducing of the interest rates. And Jerome Powell and the Fed governor and the Fed, the FOMC, which takes the decision, the committee, I think they took as per the situation of the economy. So I think it's not about allegations and counter allegations. It is what the economy demanded at that point of time. Well, this is up to Jerome Powell to prove what he's saying is correct, and it is up to President Trump to prove what is correct or not. But principally speaking, decisions are taken on the basis of inflation. The rate of inflation decides how much interest rate should be cut. And I think in US, the inflation is, even as we talk now, the inflation is quite high.
Mr. Kohli, now Trump's threat to fire a Fed chair is unprecedented, of course. Do you think it can backfire?
Yes, it can backfire, because each state also has a Fed representative, and he can face opposition from the Republicans as well. He will obviously have opposition from the Democrats, but some of the Republicans may go against this decision, because Jerome Powell is a very senior and a very respected banker. So I really don't think this is going to work very well, putting pressure on a monetary policy institution in this manner. Yes, it can backfire, to answer your question precisely, Kriti.
All right. Thanks very much then, Mr. Kohli, for joining me in this discussion, but I request you to stay on with me. Moving ahead, viewers, China says that its trade volumes hit a record high in 2025, even as exports to the US fell after higher tariffs were imposed by US President Donald Trump. But Chinese officials say that global demand for their goods have remained resilient. According to them, total trade last year crossed 45 trillion yuan for the first time, marking a new historical high. Vice Customs Minister Wang Jun has shared the figures at a press briefing in Beijing. According to Wang, China sees its economic relationship with the US as fundamentally based on mutual benefit. He has said that stable and predictable ties serve both countries and the global economy. Let's listen in.
指出的是，一些国家将经贸问题政治化，以各种理由限制高技术产品对华出口，否则我们会进口更多。未来，中国开放的大门将越开越大，进口增长的空间广阔，中国大市场始终是世界的大机遇。
统计，2025年，我国对美国进出口4.01万亿元，占我国进出口总值的 8.8%。
All right, I request Sharath Kohli to join us back in the discussion here. Sharath Kohli, a clear statement now coming out from China that relations as far as trade is concerned with the US are mutually benefiting both countries. What does that speak about US economy and the superpower status that it held up until now? Because China seems to be much ahead.
Well, I think in the month of October, there was a summit between President Xi Jinping and President Trump, where I think mutual interests were discussed when China had blocked the exports of rare earth minerals, because of which the electric vehicles and AI data equipment manufacturing in America was impacted. So there was a quick fix solution worked out for 1 year that China would continue to export rare earth minerals. And in return, America would continue to give chips to China. Yes, it is mutually beneficial because there are certain products which only, for example, NVIDIA in America, China does need them, and a lot of rare earth minerals. There were 17 of them, and now recently silver as well. That is the 18th rare earth mineral. America needs a lot of them. So yes, it is mutually beneficial. I don't think having a partisan approach, having an approach where you only think of your own country, you don't think of mutual benefits, is going to work. And whichever country tries to do that, I'm sure they're going to suffer internally, because the world is one family. There is one country who specializes in one product. There's another country specializing in the second product. So they do complement and supplement each other. Yes, I agree with the Chinese statement that it is going to be a mutually beneficial relationship. A one-sided or thinking of your own country only is not going to work here. That's the indication from the statement, Kriti.
Is the messaging clear here that you can go on imposing the tariffs as you wish, but that's not really going to affect us? We are doing good business with other nations and our products are in demand.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that is the hidden message here, that because they have recently been threatened with 500% tariffs on dealing with Iran. With dealing with Russian oil. Another 25% tariffs on dealing with Iran. So I don't think that is going to work out, because America is going to suffer as well. There's a lot of Chinese goods which America needs, and that is what made it mandatory for President Trump to meet in the month of October when he met President Xi Jinping. It was because they were strangulated on terms of rare earth mineral supplies. So I think it is absolutely mandatory for America to make sure that the normal supplies continue. If they keep slapping tariffs after tariffs, I think it's going to be self-destructive, Priti, is what I feel.
What's now then really left for Trump? How can he threaten or deter China as he wishes to?
No, I really don't think he should be making an attempt to deter either China or any country for that matter, because that is not going to work out. It may work out. It may seem like you are the biggest economy in the world, so you can probably do what you want to do. But eventually it's not going to work out, because you're going to feel the pressure within your own country. As I said, in October, when President Trump met President Xi Jinping, there was a severe shortage of rare earth minerals in America. And a lot of manufacturing was getting hindered because of that. So I really don't think that is going to work out. President Trump will have to understand sooner than later that these pressure tactics, these bullying tactics on the countries, threatening the countries with tariffs is not going to work out. And American economy is going to suffer as much, if not more, Priti.
All right, sure. Thanks very much then, Sharath Kohli, for joining me in this discussion. It was good to speak with you. Moving ahead, viewers, let's cover some news now from Uganda, where authorities have cut internet access and limited mobile services across the country just 2 days before the elections, in which President Yoweri Museveni will stand for a 7th contentious term after 4 decades in power. The Uganda Communications Commission had ordered mobile services providers to shut down public internet connections from 1500 GMT in order to curb misinformation, disinformation, electoral fraud and related risks. Meanwhile, the executive director of the Uganda Communications Commission, George William Neobi Thembu, has responded. Let's hear it.
On the recommendation, strong recommendation by the Interagency Security Committee, the Uganda Communications Commission has directed all licensed mobile network operators and internet service providers to implement a temporary suspension of the following services. A, public internet access. B, sale of and registration of new SIM cards. C, outbound data roaming services to one network area country.
All right, I now welcome Eric Shaka, who's a journalist from Kigali, joining us in this discussion. Thank you very much, Eric, for joining us. What's your assessment of the ground realities of this election when communication networks have been cut off? Okay, request you to unmute yourself, please. All right, we're trying to fix that audio connection of Eric's there, but news now from Uganda, where we are learning that internet has been shut down ahead of elections as President Yoweri Museveni is seeking a 7th term after 4 decades in power. Uganda Communications Commission had ordered all mobile service providers to shut down public internet connections. All right, Eric is back with us in the conversation. Eric, please continue.
Thank you, Meta. I was saying that this was really expected for the Ugandan government to shut down the internet because they had before announced that they were not going to shut down the internet. But if you follow the patterns, considering what happened to the 2021 election, where the government shut down internet for 4 days, saying that they were trying to cap down disinformation and misinformation. But majority of the critics say that it's a trick of the government to try to reduce what they call the incite of violence, or incite of people to stand up to what they believe is their rights to protect the votes that they'll be voting on Thursday. So this came as really expected, and majority of them were trying to find actually ways of how to bypass this internet shutdown.
But internet shutdown is only one thing, right? Groups have also been asked to suspend their works, and there have also been reports of some arrests being made across the country.
Yes, this election has been really contested. It's actually, there are almost about 8 candidates running for the president, but the two main race horses are the incumbent, who is the current president of Uganda, President Yoweri Museveni, and his the opposition, Bobby Wine, who was a musician back in the days. So they have been arrested because Bobby Wine says that his camp has been targeted by the government, where his supporters were arrested, and some were, there were even the use of violence, including tear gas. So for them, they see this shutdown of the internet as one of the other ways of manipulating what they will call fraud in the election. So they're quite vigilant, and they've been calling on the citizens to remain at the polls so that nothing wrong happens, according to what everyone is saying.
Eric, what's the public sentiment for the president? Because he's seeking to extend rule after having changed constitution at least twice.
So there's a bit of a clash, generational clash in Uganda at the moment. You have the incumbent president who's been in power for almost 40 years, since 1986. So majority of, and Uganda is has a majority of the young population who are below 35 years of age. So majority of them have never seen any other president other than the current president, Yoweri Museveni. So they've been this clash of generations. So the public sentiment, especially for the young people, have been that enough is enough. You've done already, 40 years is enough to run the country. What you have not done, let someone else do. So there's that clash. But from Museveni's camp, they're saying that they want to protect the gains. They want to protect what they have achieved in these 40 years. But on the other camp, the young generation say that we don't see anything. They say there's been a lot of underemployment, a lot of economic issues. So the sentiment is quite mixed, but majority of the urban youth say that the government has failed them.
Okay, Eric, thanks very much then for joining me in this discussion with your assessment of the situation. And moving ahead, viewers, French farmers have spent the night in Paris after driving hundreds of tractors into the capital to demand action from the government. The protests continued even after Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu promised an emergency agricultural bill aimed at addressing farmers' concerns, including water access, production costs, and predation. Farmers said the measures did not go far enough, as many reported years of losses and growing pressure from environmental rules and disease outbreaks in cattle. Anger is also focused on the pending European Union Mercosur trade deal, which farmers fear will flood Europe with cheap South American beef. Despite a recent €300 million aid package, unions said urgent action was still needed. Police counted hundreds of protesters near Parliament, and farmers said they would keep up pressure until their demands were met.
Qu'est-ce que vous attendez là?
On espère des résultats, on espère des avancées concrètes sur ce qu'on demande. Et le fait qu'on reste ce soir dormir à Paris, c'est le résultat de non-résultats qu'on attendait aujourd'hui.
Je viens de le dire, l'élément clé, c'est de permettre aux agriculteurs de comprendre quel est ce qu'on attend d'eux en fait, quel est le cap que fixe le gouvernement pour l'agriculture. Donc il y a bien évidemment des sujets de contraintes, mais ça on a avancé sur un certain nombre de sujets. Ces sujets, encore une fois, ne sont pas complètement compris de la part des agriculteurs, puisque c'est des sujets parfois très techniques, et donc on remonte au créneau par rapport à un sujet de trésorerie.
Conservative US Supreme Court justices appear to uphold state laws banning transgender athletes from female sports teams amid escalating efforts nationwide to restrict the right of transgender people. The justices heard more than 3 hours of arguments in appeals by Idaho and West Virginia of decisions by lower courts siding with transgender students who challenged the bans in the 2 states as violating the US Constitution and a federal anti-discrimination law. 25 other states have similar laws on the books. The Supreme Court, which has a 6-3 conservative majority, backed other restrictions on transgender people in rulings issued last year. Republican President Donald Trump's administration defended the laws during the arguments. Conservative justices raised concerns about imposing a uniform rule on the entire country amid sharp disagreement and uncertainty over whether medications like puberty blockers or gender-affirming hormones eliminate male physiological advantages in sports. Questions by the Liberal justices mostly signaled sympathy for the transgender challengers. Let's in fact listen in to some transgender athletes who have rallied against the ban.
It is exhausting to fight for your rights every day, to wake up in a country that I can represent at the highest level of my sport in international competition, but I am not safe here in the country that I represent. It is incredibly difficult to continue with these attacks, these persistent attacks on my community every single day. But at the same time, I know that this is what I was built for. This is the moment that I was made for.
Yeah, so at 19, it can be a little scary sometimes. I have a lot of hope right now. I think I have more hope, I have more joy than a lot of my peers, but I think that's because I have the community I do. It's because I have communities like the people outside the courthouse right now, but also people in my college town, at my hometown. I wish for and hope for a world where I don't have to be seen as brave for being myself, where I can just be trans and I don't have to advocate for myself, and that I can just be myself in every aspect of my being, that me playing sports isn't a controversial.
And we now have some breaking news coming in from Iran, where according to senior Iranian official, Tehran has reportedly asked its regional leaders, including Turkey, to prevent any military escalation by the United States. The official has also warned that Iran would strike US bases in the region if it is attacked by Washington. This comes as mass demonstrations continue across Iran, with the with the US-based human rights activist news agency reporting that 1,847 protesters have been killed so far. Just yesterday, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social urging Iranians to continue protesting and take control of state institutions. Trump also announced that he has cancelled all meetings with Iranian officials and will not engage with Tehran until it ends what he described as the senseless killings of protesters. Alright viewers, we now move on. Now, Turkey is in advanced talks to join a mutual defense alliance formed by Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, a move that could reshape regional security dynamics in the Middle East and beyond. The pact, which was signed by Riyadh and Islamabad in September last year, treats any attack on one member as an attack on all. This is a structure similar to NATO's collective defense clause, where Turkey is already a key member with the alliance's second largest military after the US. Sources familiar with the discussion say such a deal is very likely. If completed, the arrangement would link 3 US allied Muslim nations and could take place Turkey under Pakistan's nuclear umbrella. Saudi Arabia does not possess nuclear weapons, while Pakistan is the world's only nuclear-armed Muslim country. The original agreement had emerged amid heightened regional tensions following a failed Israeli strikes on Hamas leadership in Qatar, which armed Gulf states. Now, Turkey's possible entry reflects shared concerns among Ankara and Riyadh over Iran's nuclear ambitions, while Pakistan too has faced rising security pressures along its borders with Afghanistan and nuclear-armed India. And that's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.